We are recording. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest round of Coding Black Females Lightning Talks, which is probably my favorite type of Coding Black Females event. We do many events around here. I think this is secretly, well, it's open now. My favorite one because I get to hear from all of you. I'm always fascinated by what everyone in the Code Black Females community is up to. I get to learn, I get to have fun, and even better, I get to celebrate everything you're all doing. So I absolutely love lightning talks. Tonight we have got four amazing speakers. Can't wait to hear from each and every one of you. Before we get started with the talks, quick reminder that Code Black Females, we always have courses running. So whether you're trying to get into tech or trying to level up in tech, it doesn't matter. We've got courses for you. We've got events. We've got mentoring. We've got a lot of stuff. We've got that fun time in our Slack. We've always got stuff to do. So no matter what stage in your career you're in or what type of tech you're working on, we've got stuff to do. And if you want to be surrounded by a community of people who just want to see you do well and be amazing, Coding Black Females is the place to be. So I'm gonna shut up after I actually introduce myself. I'm terrible. See, I remember everything else apart from who I am. Hi, I'm Tanya. I'm your host tonight. I'm also the CTO or co-CTO here at Coding Black Females. So I'm behind the scenes doing actual real like dirty technical stuff. But I'm behind the scenes making sure that everything still works and you can apply for courses, apply for everything that we have to offer you. So I'm going to stop talking now. I'll pass on to our very first speaker of the night, who is Lauryn. Lauryn, are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Are you excited?
I am nervous, but I'm going to call it excitement.
Well, can we all help her and give a big, massive virtual round of applause to make Lauryn feel comfortable? And no matter what, you're going to be amazing. You're going to be amazing. And I can't wait to hear what you have to say. So whenever
Thank
you
you.
are ready, over to you.
Okay, well, hi everyone. My name is Lauryn Mwale, and I'm going to introduce you to the life-changing magic of journaling. Now, when the COVID lockdown was announced, I, like many people, was scared and confused, and to be honest, a little bit annoyed at my newfound dependence on delivery services. Uh, Around week 5 or so, I kind of looked around and thought, I need to get a little bit more productive with all of this extra time, and thought about picking up some positive habits. Some habits were absolute lost causes, shout out Chloe Ting and all of those challenges, but two of them did stick. Number one, I bought a cookbook. I think it was Chrissy Teigen's second cookbook. I feel like I should mention that I bought this before she was canceled, and I cooked my way through the entire thing. There is a fabulous Thai-inspired carbonara recipe in there. Do look around for it. Number two, I started to journal. Now, my mother had always bought me and my baby sister's little notebook. She was always saying, journal, it's good for you, write things down. Even though she herself has never been a journaler, as far as I know, outside of maybe writing some prayers down. Um, she encouraged this habit in us, tried to instill it. It never really stuck. I think she was just trying to get us to write our secrets down so she could have easy access to all of our thoughts and ideas, and we might, have speedier access to punishment. But I always had these notebooks just around where I'd put ideas and short stories and all manner of things. The only time I'd consistently journaled was during a mental health crisis about a year and a half before COVID. And I remembered how good that was for me. I remembered how grounding it was to have a journaling practice. And so I revisited this during the desperate insecurity and fear that took over me and many people during COVID. As the death tolls scrolled across the evening news, I picked up a pen and I wrote. I wrote sporadically. I was not perfect, but I was honest. And I filled pages and pages exploring topics that mattered in the world and that mattered really only to me. And thankfully, it stuck. So I'm writing and writing and writing. And after a few weeks of this, I noticed that my journal entries are mushrooming around a core theme. I was writing a lot about the spotlight and invisibility of race. At the time, I was in my third year of my undergraduate degree. I was studying mathematics at the University of Edinburgh, and I was just often the Black person in all of my workshops, maybe one of two, if I'm lucky, three Black students in the lecture halls. And the loneliness of that was a burden that I didn't even really acknowledge to myself. I didn't want to live without peace or trust. I didn't want to be posed at all times to accuse someone of being racist or carrying out a microaggression. I didn't want to do that. The fact of racism is heavy and exhausting. The constant warnings from my parents of people treating me badly because I was Black or African and female was already really exhausting. And so when the reality set in, I did not let the reality of it exhaust me. I disengaged. And here in front of me in these journal entries was all of that pain, was all of that stress. Disengaging didn't protect me. And being honest and committing to this habit for my mental health sent me down a winding path that has been wonderful and surprising and helped me make one of my core dreams come true. But let's zoom out. Why should you journal? What's a good reason to journal? Number one, it's basically free. Grab yourself a notebook. My first journal was a £2 thing from Sainsbury's. You can be fancy if you'd like, but all you really need is a way to record your story. So for me, it is a leather-bound journal and a pen, but maybe for some of you, it's going to be recording a voice note on your phone. It might be just like a little jar and writing notes to yourself in that jar. It might be emails that you're sending to yourself. Whatever it is, however you do it, a journaling practice doesn't have to be expensive. Number two, it's good for you. Research has shown that journaling is good for your mental health and well-being. It allows you to create space to process feelings, which is very healthy. And it also has been proven through scientific study to just to help people who are dealing with long-term depression. Reason number three to journal, it is a radical act of protest. You being who you are, writing this down, journals are history being written in real time. It feels like your specific life is a little life, but when you think of the primary documents that are used by historians to explore specific times in the past, a lot of them are private letters and journals. So consider your own activity as making your mark on history. Okay, that's my big pitch. How did journaling change my life, me specifically? Number one, it's the only kind of meditation I can handle. I can't sit quietly. I am very bad at not having a million thoughts running around at once. But the way writing longhand slows down my thoughts and ideas is incredibly meditative and helpful. So if you are like me, and during yoga, when they're saying clear your mind, you are thinking of 1,000,005 things, maybe journaling can help you find a corner of meditation. Number two, that record of my thoughts and feelings validated my thoughts and feelings. I stopped thinking, oh, this thing that's happened in this lecture, this thing that's happened in this team project is just a weird one-off thing, and I'm blowing it out of proportion in my brain. No, I had this record that said that, Lauren, this is the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time. You have every right to stand up for yourself because this is a recurring pattern that you are allowed to be angered and upset by. And maybe you too need this record to bring yourself confidence when you need to stand up for yourself or for others. And finally, the third big reason how journaling changed my life is that my journal entries spiraled into a book. I kept writing about this. And as someone who needs answers, I began to research about the experiences of young Black women in STEM spaces. And that research led to interviews, and it rolled and rolled and rolled and rolled until January 2022, when I published my first book called The Shuri Effect, Bridging the Gap for Young Black Women in STEM. And I did not know some random evening in April that all of this would lead me to making this dream of my life. I have always loved reading. I continue to love reading. And I had no idea that I would at some point manifest this personal joy of mine into producing a book that I can share with other people, producing a collection of ideas that are mine and that are gleaned from wonderful Black women who gave me their time and patience and were incredibly generous with their stories. And that was so gratifying and surprising and wonderful. So a recent journal maybe is that one day it might lead to a book or a blog or a job, or really just that diary that you can hand down to a sister, a niece, a daughter, what have you. Before I jump off, before I finish this little talk, I want to emphasize that as an historically underrepresented person in tech, in STEM, you are a trailblazer. And so your specific story, which you might consider little and everyday and happenstance, is actually incredibly radical and beautiful. And so my final little plea is that do start some kind of personal record practice. And maybe you want it to be public. Maybe you're journaling via Instagram or TikTok, or maybe it really, really is just for you, whenever you find the time, a collection of words and some passive meditation. Okay, thank you.
Very pleased to get a massive virtual round of applause. That was amazing, Lauren. And you were nervous. You sounded so confident, and it was great. And you prompted a memory. I looked down on my desk and I'm like, oh, is that my empty journal that's staring at me for the past 2 years? So now I feel guilty. Thank you for that. That is amazing. If you have any questions for Lauren, please feel free to put them in the chat, because I actually have a question for you. I know you're running away. Before I let you completely run away, can I ask you a question? When you were first starting to journal, did you use like any prompts or anything to help you get started or to help unlock things to get you going?
Gosh, I think prompts are really helpful. I didn't initially, because I think it's great to start something. Like the first 3 days of anything are insane. So for the first 3 days, I sat there and it was going really well. And then after that big surge of energy, I did start to look for prompts to keep me going and keep me good with the habit. Something that helped later on was I got the Becoming Companion journal. Michelle Obama's book has a journal thing that you can buy, which, allows you to record your journey of becoming. And it would have these questions like, what are the 10 recipes your mom used to make when you were growing up? Or just these weirdly specific prompts. They were really fun to do. And I found other journal prompt collections exist as well. So maybe that's what someone on this call might be looking for. But again, journaling is basically free. Let's not make it expensive. If you just Google journaling prompts, lots of stuff's going to pop up.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And congratulations for keeping it up. It sounds like a habit. It's like a great habit. Before we head to the next speaker, does anyone have any questions? Or if we can't think, if you think of a question. Oh, Lisbeth just raised her hand real quick. Lisbeth, over to you.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I know this question may not be related. Sorry, my friend tried to join, but the link wasn't working. The link that she had wasn't working. So I was just wondering if you could share the link so I can forward it on to her, if that's possible.
Yeah, when the next speaker's up, I'll get it for you.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. Lauren, I know you have to run. You've got other plans. So thank you very much for being here this evening. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, I'm inspired. I might actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do it. I'm going to write something. I'm going to at least put my name in that journal tonight to get me going, to get me started. Next up, we have got another wonderful speaker. We have got, oh, she's ready. She's prompt. Sandra,
hello.
Over to you whenever you are ready.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for taking the time to come to this talk today. This is my first talk with a coding Black female. So Tanya, thank you very much for inviting me. I really wanted to talk about my career in technology and what my journey has been. So I've been in technology for 25 odd years. And I started when I was about, I'm not going to tell you when I started because then it tells you how old I am. So I'm not going to do that. And I started, I was fortunate or unfortunate enough to have landed a role in what was an investment bank, and I'm obviously my background is you know, I come from Southeast London. My parents came here from the Caribbean. I'm first generation British, and so there weren't many role models around me who knew anything about technology or anything about what I was talking about, to be really honest. So I kind of took the first role that I thought was really interesting, and I ended up in a large institution, and I kind of took an entry level role. And that was in what we called the data center in those days. And how that really worked is that I was a operations supervisor in that organization, and I managed a number of people there over the 8 years that I was in that organization. And I then took the opportunity to move out of that within the same institution, but into another role, because as you grow in the job that you're doing, you become visible to people externally to the role that you're doing, because you speak to people on a daily basis. So I was able to move out of that role into a development role. And that in that role, I was doing database administration, and I was writing Unix scripts and things like that, on things that I'd learned in my previous role, but actually doing it for a specific business unit rather than fixing other people's code. So I managed to do that for a period of time, and I got to meet a lot of senior people, and I did spend a lot of time, you know, kind of going and talking to people in different departments, and just being visible. I suppose for me, it wasn't really about being visible. That's what they call it now. It was really being nosy, because I was always so interested in what everybody else was doing. So I never really spent a lot of time at my desk, but I always be talking to people who are on the other end of the interface that I was responsible for, to find out what they were doing and what their system did. And so I grew to know quite a lot of different people in the organization, and that allowed me to move on to work in what we could then call the investment bank. So I'd essentially moved out of infrastructure and moved into an investment banking role. And I spent time in working on trading platforms, fixed income trading platforms for that institution at the time. And when the manager I worked for was leaving, she asked me if I wanted to join her. And so I left one investment bank and went to another investment bank. And that was a really interesting experience, because the bank I'd worked with before was a European bank, and I moved into an American bank, and it is completely different. You all expect all these organizations to be the same, but they really are not. So I did that for a period of time. She moved on to do something else, and I stayed at the organization for the next 5 to 6 years. And within that organization, I was able to move into a relatively senior role, where I was ultimately was able to run the group, and had quite a large team, which was managed across different countries. So people in London, New York, in Hong Kong, and some locations in Spain. But that was really when the engagements that we have with vendors really started. And that's we started to have relationship with people from Cognizant and Wipro and Infosys, and that was essentially the journey of really spending time training people who were essentially from India. So I did spend quite some time going back and forth to that location as well. And I think that's kind of part of what you see, what we see now in terms of how because when I came into banking, or when I came into technology, there were really no black or brown people. right? It was all white. I was the only one there. I think in most of my career, I have seen maybe 5, I could count on one hand. Whether that's a woman or a man, Black people that I've been able to see or work with across these institutions. And I think what's happened now in terms of, coding Black females, Black women in tech, and urban synergy, and there are so many organizations, I don't want to name them all, that we actually have kind of tried to create this community where we want to be visible, and we want people who are coming through from who may be interested in being involved in technology can see that there's a place for them, and that there are other people within organizations that have actually managed to succeed in those spaces, and therefore there's a place for them, and not to be afraid to apply, and not to be afraid to ask questions. And as part of the last role I did, I ran an apprenticeship scheme, which was really for underrepresented groups specifically. And that's really, all of this kind of came up all post George Floyd. So this is all post 2020, where institutions are really starting to look at what what the makeup of the organization is. And lo and behold, and surprise, realized that there weren't many Black people within those organizations, or the percentage that was in the organization was relatively low. So and all credit to them, they spent time then trying to change that and be impactful in that. And so I was able to participate in that, and looking at students who were coming from doing their A-levels or were changing careers, i.e. they took a course at university that was in a different subject and they really wanted to transition into tech, and really being able to help and mentor those young people coming through, for them to be successful, not just in technology, but also inside a large corporate institution. For some of them, they'd never, ever worked in a corporate environment at all. And in some cases, it was their first job. So, trying to, managing them through that process. So to me, that has been a really useful and impactful, kind of almost like the highlight of my career in some ways, because you don't really want to have spent a very long time in a role, or in a job situation where actually there's very few people who look like you, and there really isn't a pipeline or to change that. So that to me has been a really impactful. So as part of the role that I was doing, I met people from Coding Black Females, but I also met the founder of Black Women in Tech, and we did a number of events with them, and they invited me to be part of their board. So I currently sit on the board of Black Women in Tech as well, and I think the missions between Coding Black Females and Black Women in Tech in a lot of ways are the same. It's really about getting as many disadvantaged groups, so Black women or Black men, into technology, and finding a space for them, and them feeling welcome, and creating, whereas Coding Black Females creates courses that people can apply for and partake in. In case of Black Women in Tech, it's really about creating ecosystems where people will feel welcome and ask any questions they want to ask, and actually have mentorship and fellowship, which for me has been really, really, really impactful, because it's maybe the first time I actually saw so many Black women in the room. In my whole career, I've never seen anything like it. And I suppose you always think that we actually don't exist, if you've only ever worked in an organization where you've always been the only one. So that has been interesting to me. But for me, when I look at roles, and the roles that I've done across different institutions, it's always been about what's the role, what's been important. And so I actually left banking last year, and I've gone to work for an AI startup, which is very much client facing. And that has been a roller coaster. but it has been really enjoyable because now I'm learning something completely different from what I had done before. Working with data scientists and actually with the end client in a lot of cases, and trying and understanding more about how the next phase of technology is going to manifest itself, and how we as a group of Black people in technology need to make sure that we are part of that change that's happening. Otherwise, we're going to be left behind, because that change is happening at quite an alarming rate. So we do need to make sure anyone coming through actually understands that there is a space for them. There's lots to learn, but there's also to how we can make sure that we are included in any of those changes that are being made in that space. So for me, coming to this talk and kind of being part of this talk is about raising awareness that there are women who have been in technology, are willing to be visible, and that if anybody has any questions, they can ask them, and that we should continue to do that. And so part of me doing this talk is to implement that. So if anybody has any questions for me, please let me know. Tanya, thank you very much.
Thank you. Can we please get a big virtual round of applause for Sandra? Thank you so much. Well, I have a couple of questions. Like you said something, and I was like, we really are related, Sandra Bell. We really are. So I'm also nosy, not just curious. I'm just curious. I'm still like a child. If I see something shiny, I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
When you were first starting your career and you might be curious and wanted to ask questions, did it come naturally to ask the questions, or did you?
I think
were you a bit nervous started with it?
I think to be honest with you, I think that I wasn't nervous, but I think that was because obviously you go into a completely male-dominated environment, and no one looks like you, right? But I have 4 brothers, so I'm used to I just don't care. Like, I'm going to ask. If I get an answer, I get an answer, and if I do get an answer, but just to ask the question, because I do see women in environments even now where you have to ask them to speak up, right? When I see a woman in a room and she's there but she hasn't said anything, I'll say, "Do you have a question?" Right? Because that is not everyone, right? That is not everyone. But I think I had the 18 years prep before I actually went into work. I think that's really the only reason why. And I could see why, if women did come into tech, they'd leave, because it is a challenge, right? It's not easy.
Yeah, I hear that. We have some questions in the chat for you. So the first one is, in your opinion, do you think that tech is having an effect on unemployment in the UK? And ultimately, there's going to be, so I'm leaning to the side, and ultimately there's going to be a surge in the industry. Therefore, will there be enough opportunities? And perhaps will there be a lot of jobs being outsourced as other means to reduce the cost to the business?
So I think what's really interesting, if you go back, and I can go back to when I joined in the 80s, right? I left school in the 80s, right? So, and back then technology was meant to reduce the number of jobs, and what it's really done is increase the number of jobs, because every single company now has got a tech department. When I came into technology, that wasn't the case at all. Everybody thought tech was word processing, right, in Excel spreadsheets, right? And when you used to ask people what their job was, they think you were doing PC support, right? Because they didn't really know what tech was. So I think, and that's the reason why I say we have to participate, because there is another leap that is taking place, and the question becomes, are we ready to be part of it, because now we're kind of, I'm looking at the last 30 odd years of coding, and I think it was only in 2001 that I saw the rise of having vendor management and offshoring of work. The reality is that those that where there is offshoring that is happening, there's still a huge number of roles still here in the UK, right? And the question is, are we ready to be part of that in whatever guise that is? Even when you're talking about automation in some roles, not just, and it's all the ancillary roles in technology. It doesn't have to be, hands-on development. There are so many different roles in technology now where you actually have to kind of have some understanding of what the landscape is and what the makeup is. That you to me there's a huge amount of opportunity if you just want to spend a little bit of time understanding what it is, and then understanding what it is you want, right? Like, that's the first thing. What do you want? You come into a space and there's just so many different roles, and you go, okay, well, but what do you want? What do you enjoy? Most of the apprentices, I used to say to them, what do you love? Because if you do what you love, you'll do it. If you're just doing it because you're not, someone says this is a great idea and you can make loads of money doing it, it won't last. You'll get bored.
Absolutely.
So, because technology is not easy, right? You do have to, it is a continuous learning process, right? So you have to kind of love it, right?
100% agree with it. 100%. And I think one of the beautiful things about technology is it's used in every industry, every sector, every company uses it. Even if you're just doing something on your business is on your phone.
Yes.
Technology, it's hardware, it's software, right? But there's something. There's something there. It's something. So even if you follow your interest, I am interested in X, you can find a tech role for
in that. Exactly.
If
because not
you're
everybody is
exactly, not everyone's blessed to be able to do that. I'm
Yeah.
interested in this type of thing. I can find a job here.
Yes.
And if you get bored of it, you can move those skills into something new that interests you.
It's
like
lateral.
you've done.
Yeah.
So you've gone from investment banking to an AI startup.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're continuously learning. So it's never ends.
I mean, I started in infrastructure, which was really like, I used to recable disks to machines, right? And then I went into software development, and then I went to business analysis, then I went to project management, then I went to delivery management, program management. It really, you get to decide at every one of those junctures, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
But the challenge is for you to manage your career. And that's the reason what these organizations are so important, right? For people to understand you have to participate in your career. Otherwise, someone else will decide what they think is a good job for you, right? So I think that there's definitely change that's on the horizon. If you look at, there's a lot of roles that have gone. Obviously there've been layoffs at Amazon and Google. But then I still know that there are open roles, in different industries. So the challenge now is were you doing something that where you actually this was the best thing that you knew what you were doing, right? Did you, or were you? I mean, I've seen where I ran teams where we built code from scratch, but some people ran teams where they were configuring systems. So there was a vendor platform. So either you become an expert on that platform. So if you end up having to look for another role, you can say, I know how to configure Imagine or Fidessa or whatever that platform happens to be. Or you're going to be one of those people who go, yep, I'm a Java developer and I've done it for the last 5 years and it's 1.8 and these are the features. Whatever you do that well. and kind of make sure that you understand that. But if you've done a very generic role, that's where the challenges come.
You see, I hope that answered your question. We have one more question for you. I like this one. Are there any software engineers in your organization? If so, what does the job consist of? So
currently, we've got data scientists because I've moved into AI. And there's lots, actually, the majority of the people there are data scientists. Don't really, so we have what we call an engineering function, and there's one person in that engineering function. We could definitely do with another, but at the moment there's just one. And it's not, when we talk about software engineers, I suppose the question is, what do you mean? Because that's a generic name for you know, what's happening. So there are so many, and that's why I always say it's about the role, right? What is it? So a software engineer, is it a Java developer? Is it C++ developer? Is it a database administrator? Like, what is it? Like, what is it? Right. And that's what I love about technology, because technology is a great leveler. It levels the playing field completely, right? And everybody has access. It's not, well, you know, you needed to have done this course and have been to this school and know this person to be able to get access. Everyone has access if they want to look for it. And it's all online. I can't believe how much is online. I remember when I started, man, I used to live in a library, right? I lived in a library. You don't have to do any of that now. It's just all of your it's all on, you know, search engines, right? You can look anything up. It's truly amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. When I reflect, I'm like, you don't have to leave your house to learn. You're so blessed.
Yeah, because you don't even have to put the right words in the search engine anymore. You just put, I'm looking in for this, and it tells you. And you're just like, when search engines start, it wasn't like that. Let me just tell you, right? It wasn't like that. You needed to know what you were looking for. Now you can just put the question in. It just tells you, like, damn, this is great. And you know, you've got ChatGPT, even better.
But sometimes you just have to know exactly, because there's so much information out there.
Yeah,
like, what exactly am I looking for?
But the thing is, you can type it in, it gives you it, and then you can take snippets of that and then type it in again. And it gives you the answer. So you kind of know what it is you're trying to, you know, that's not my general direction. That's really not what I was looking for. I was really looking for something else. And you just put the question in a different way. Awesome.
It is nice. It is nice to switch your brain off sometimes. But
yeah,
I didn't say that really.
Well, you know, it's like asking someone else that's not in the room, isn't it?
In your pajamas and not have to leave your house. It's great.
So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sandra.
You're welcome.
Really, really appreciate it. And someone's left a comment saying, very inspiring journey.
So that's why I'm here. If I can do it, you can do it.
And anytime you want to give a talk, maybe keep us updated on the new startup. You've got a platform over here.
Yeah.
Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much. So, quick reminder that we have courses at Coding Black Females. One with an investment bank, I believe, is coming up soon. So, if any of Sandra's journey inspired you, you're like, maybe I'll get into investment banking. You can do that at codingblackfemales.com. We've got a course coming up in the near future with an investment bank. And if you're looking for a job at the moment, you can also use our job board at jobs.codingblack. Wow, I can't say the name of the company that I work for. This is terrible. Jobs.codingblackfemales.com. I'm gonna learn how to speak for a few minutes and stop talking and pass on to our next speaker, Czarina. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready?
Hello. Let me share my slide deck.
Yes. Can we please get a big welcome for Czarina?
Thank you very much. Right. Firstly, just want to say I completely agree. There is so much information and resources and learning platforms and everything that is available online, just literally at the other end of a mouse click button sometimes. The hardest thing is just starting. So this is why I'm really excited about initiatives like this, where it's getting people together all on the same journey and all on the same path. So hello everyone, I'm really excited to be here for this amazing event. First, I just wanted to say thank you to the other speakers so far. Your stories have been truly inspiring and really resonates with me. I myself have come from an on-prem background, financial services back, but I'll talk a little bit about my story throughout this session. So firstly, let me introduce myself. My name is Czarina Barnsby, and I've previously volunteered as a mentor for the Google IT Support Professional Certificate with Coding Black Females. This evening, I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey into tech and some of the key lessons which I've learned along the way. When reflecting back on my journey, I saw a couple core themes which I really wanted to share with you. And the topic, my tech journey, I very much saw it a little bit like my life as a book. I'm an avid book reader over here. Where each decision writes a new chapter and the plot is still unknown until the pages unfold. So for fun, I've structured this talk and this slide deck around chapters, like a book, with each one focusing on a key aspect that I wanted to share. So let's settle in for a whistle-stop tour through 4 chapters of my tech journey. Right, so this is me. Like a book jacket or a blurb as I know it, it's only giving you a brief insight, a very small and decorated window to look at. A little bit like those online spoilers that tells you where someone is now and what's happening. Before I dive into my journey of what got me there, I'm going to skip on ahead and let you know where I am now. So I will formally introduce myself. As I mentioned, Czarina Barnsby, I'm recognised as a BCS Fellow with the Chartered Institute for IT Professionals. On a side note, I was really excited to see that Coding Black Females are part of the BCS. And I'm also honoured as a AWS community builder with Amazon Web Services. And I've been fortunate enough to win a couple external awards just due to the engagement work that I've been doing for under a decade. You can see here just some of the things I've done, talks at different events and, big ones, small ones, centered around schools and universities, or just with different initiatives like mentoring over at Coding Black Females. I personally find it really strange that I'm here on this side of the fence sharing my journey today, because the truth is, before any of these events, what you had is this scared individual, this person thinking, what am I doing here? Am I good enough? Am I tech enough? And for me, public speaking has always made me nervous. But I really believe in the message that I tell and helping others, because I've been there too, which we'll discuss in my journey. My journey to all of this all started with an opportunity. Someone who asked, who wants to help out on this? And that started about a decade ago. I, put my hand up, which is very unlike me. And with each different thing, started looking at expanding my own comfort zones, which led on to next event, next thing, and next thing. I said one word, 2 letters that really helped set me on a path. And 1 word, 2 letters, it was okay. It was a very nervous, hesitant okay at that as well. When someone said, who wants to do a talk in your old school? Talking about your journey and trying to encourage people into STEM subjects. So here is the first lesson which I learned, which is don't judge a book by its cover. Behind every smile is someone who's just trying and wanting to make a difference. Do keep yourself open to opportunities, new people, new conversations, events like this, because you never know where that first okay could lead to. So a little theme, in addition to the puns I have about books, is just to remember that 1 word, 2 letters, okay. So chapter 1, choosing the genre. So like the story that Sandra was saying before, there's lots of different pivots and different areas that people look into before trying to figure out where they want to go. One of the things I've mentioned about myself is very much centered around the things that I've done outside of work. During work, we were saying day job and night job earlier, weren't we, Tanya? But during the day, I'm head of technical architecture at a technology consultancy where we solve business problems by finding and implementing the right technologies. And I have worked in IT for about 14 years, but I wasn't always in tech. I'm a career switcher. I've got a background in financial services, which I did after doing an English and media degree. I did briefly study computing at college, so at AS level. I loved business and technology. But in those days, I was literally the only girl in the room, and at no fault of the college or anything like that. I just really didn't want to be sitting in that room. I tested well, I did everything in terms of the theory, but the final submission, in order to finish that AS level, I need to do this practical project, and I wasn't in a position where I had computers at home or anything like that. So I just didn't want to be in that room, and I didn't complete it. I am pleased to say, having worked in financial services in IT, I did get over that. And what's really exciting to see is a lot more diversity within the tech sectors as well from when I initially first started. When I was younger, I felt this expectation that there was this set path that I was supposed to take, and I had no idea at the time. And speaking honestly, you know, I still don't know what I eventually want to do when I grow up, and I'm hitting 40 this year. And you know what? It's harking back to what I mentioned earlier. One word, two letters, and that's okay. The point I like to make is that the path you choose in the past doesn't ever define where you're going to end up. And it's completely okay to change your mind, follow your passions, and all the great skills that you've learned from the past, from the previous experience you've had, all shape who you are today. So that closes the first chapter. It's chapter 2, plot twists and new beginnings. This one's one of the things that we've spoken in the previous talk as well. The world technology is fast-paced and ever-changing. It's a really exciting place to work in, but also for someone who's already in the industry, it can be one of the most challenging, exciting challenges, though I have to say. It is both one of my favorite things and least favorite things all at once. But the great thing is that for people who are looking at breaking into the industry, or in specifically technology, or looking at advancing to more senior roles, it's a fantastic thing. With every niche iteration of technology, there are new things for everyone to learn. The barriers to enter are lower, and we're all on the same page, pardon the pun. I think it's been mentioned before, but I really do believe in it. Technology is a great leveler, and you know, we've got to really remember that. I moved from different tech stacks to another throughout my career. Previously, it was in the project management function, moved to assurance, moved to cyber, went into BA. The list goes on-prem data centers as well, and then moved towards solution and technical architecture. But yeah, we're all on the same learning journey, even for people who've not worked in tech before. Yeah. So the next chapter, I'm going to talk a little bit about character development. So this is very much centered around that theme of self-discovery and growth, which is something I am continuously working on. Like a book, good stories and character development takes time. You can't rush to the end of a book. Just like when creating a character, you know, you want one that's full-rounded and that people have, you know, personally invested and believe in. Good things take time. And whether it's something like learning a new tech or studying towards an exam, you know, someone who's moved from one tech stack to another quite a few times, you know, I've taken a couple of exams and, you know, I've been in really fantastic environments with cohorts of people all heading towards the same goal. It's really fantastic. It is personally my favorite way to learn. You get the peer support and that really great network. And a lot of the people that I've met along the way have all had a really great hand in shaping who I am. But I found it hard not to look at others to compare. And this is the advice I really want to give. And it is one of those ones that I give out, but I find it difficult to, you know, hear myself and listen to and really hear it. But yeah, my journey really is when I saw people, passing exams, achieving this and that, and doing this event, I had people in my peer group who would watch a video and be able to explain all the technical concepts verbatim. For me, I'm not the fastest learner. I had to learn my own learning rhythm and learn not to copy other people's. For me, I like something which some people use to prop up the monitors. It's called a book with tangible pages, hence the theme of this talk. But, I like reading a book. I then take copious handwritten notes in a color-coded order pen that mean all sorts of different things. Then for me, I like to get hands-on with the tech. And then after, that's when the video really comes into its own to confirm what I've learned. But it's finding your own learning style and understanding that everyone's different and we can all take our own time. Learning something new or challenge yourself is hard. There are times when you will fall and you will stumble, but it's just about picking yourself back up. Like the book jacket at the start of the talk, what I didn't really take into consideration, and when I was looking at those people who were doing this and that and all that stuff, was I was literally looking at it from a certain vantage point of view. Essentially, I was looking at that book jacket and only looking at the end and not realizing that everybody has got their own journey and it was up to me to find my own. I like this one. Has everyone seen this thing on the next slide? It's I've seen it a lot, especially in terms of LinkedIn and from L&D aspects. It's called the Jennings-Kruger effect. I have spent, and I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, way too much time in this section. Anyone else? The Valley of Despair. We've all been there.
Oh dear.
And
I
This
think it
is
generally
triggering me.
happens when, yeah, I think this generally happens when you're in a career change, when you're moving through that maze of where you want, what do I want to do next? I live there.
yeah. I saw this.
This is my daily process. This is how I start. This is me every day. Like by 11 a.m. I'm still in Mount Stupid and I'm like, what? This is my
Yeah.
everyday.
I'm never in Mount Stupid.
I thought it was funny. This is from Wikipedia, but it's a interesting one because it is very much when you start looking at something new, especially when you're career switching or learning a new tech stack. Everything's all exciting. Like you realize all the great things that you are doing or able to do, and then you look over that garden fence, and then you see that there is a whole forest beyond what you've got. And to be fair, I think that ability to see how much there is to learn is actually a really good thing. It shows a full appreciation of the journey from that aspect. But yeah, I just wanted people to know that we have all been there. I have been there, and pretty much lived there like a lot of people. But just know that you're not alone, and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And this is where groups like Coding Black Females, mentors, and peer support really does come on to its own. There is a light at the end of the tunnel in the slope of enlightenment. But when you achieve your goal, it will be worth it. The key thing is just continuing on your journey. A lot of people just try and rush to the end, but skills development, or rather character development, to stay on theme, it's a journey and it shouldn't be thought of as a race. A school teacher friend I was studying AWS with said it best, and I think this is a common analogy, but it was the first time I'd ever heard it. They mentioned something like the journey of personal professional growth was like kernels of popcorn. They had a popper, but I'm a bit old school. I have a saucepan with a lid on a stove, but each kernel, it's unique. It all faces the same heat in the same environment, yet everything pops in its own time. And the variance doesn't denote, one kernel's potential over another, but if anything, it highlights the individual's journey that one person takes to fulfill its potential. In our careers, we will all face challenges and opportunities, yet we all pop or come into our own in different times. And, with that in mind, I'm going to say that's one word, 2 letters, that's okay. So my last slide. is To Be Continued, an unfinished book. I'd like to conclude with the notion that, just like mine, your book, your careers, it's still being written, and with many chapters ahead. It's an ongoing nature of learning and growth, and the importance of writing your own story and hopefully inspiring others to do the same. I want you to see your careers as a book, and that you are writing it, no one else. Don't ever be penned down by societal or other people's expectations or anything like that. Follow your passions, decide what you like. When I was at school, I used to follow fashion as much as I could back then. And one of the key things that I loved was finding out what was the latest and greatest, then looking at my budget, which was severely limited compared to the fashion magazines and everything else, and going, you know what, that could fit. I like that color and that suits me. And with that, that passion for fashion, it's something which I brought into financial services and technology. The key core things that it's about learning and looking at what's new and keeping on top of what there is going on the industry. And that aspect of figuring out what was in with my budget is what we do for our customers, aligning expectations to the art of the possible, essentially. But looking for those key themes and passions that you enjoy and finding how they can fit into whatever career path you choose in your life, I think really helps from that. But yeah, harking back to the concept of writing the book and writing your own paths and, deciding what you want to do. It's really about being the author of your own journey, be inspired by your dreams, your challenges, and also celebrate your achievements. A lot of people focus on celebrating the big achievements, but please don't ever underestimate the importance of the small wins. I logged in, I did half an hour or on this course or anything like that. All that time adds up and really helps you on your journey. Our tech journey is essentially like a good book, filled with unexpected turns, challenges to overcome, and moments of triumph. So let's keep writing, eager for the next chapter, knowing that the best stories are those which we never expected. And that's, you know what I'm going to say? That's okay. 2 words. Sorry, 1 word, 2 letters. Thank you very much.
Can we please get a massive virtual round of applause for Czarina, please? Thank you so much. I'm loving tonight's talks. I'm seeing a common theme throughout all the talks so far is pushing yourself and like getting out of your comfort zone to progress in life. And
I like to say expanding it
expanding
slowly, but
exactly.
yeah, that's what I
It's
say
the
to take people
evolution.
along.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. In one of my old jobs, I used to say to people, but I'm on my Pokemon evolution because Pokemon's evolve over time. So every time I learn
like
something
that.
new, I'm like, I've just evolved to my new Pokemon level. And they're like, shut up, Tanya, just stop talking.
No, I like that. It's a level up.
The level up.
It is. But it's
I
celebrating
just saw
those little
something.
wins.
Exactly. I just saw something in the comments which made me giggle behind the scenes. Celebrate the code compiling with no errors and no warnings. That's a massive win. That's a massive win. I'll do that. I'm like, job done. I can go sleep now.
Mine's like survive the summer holidays with my 2 kids.
Oh,
Win.
huge win. Huge win. That is. We have a question in the chat. Is there any entry-level jobs online I can do to build up experience in tech? I recently registered data analytics on Udemy and I'm loving it. I enjoy dealing with big data and working with BI and Excel. I can't afford to just leave my job and do tech. I need to do this transition while doing my current job.
Okay, then there's a lot of things going on in that question. One of the things that it was talking about was online learning. But what a lot of people can do, especially when they're still doing their existing job, is potentially looking at building a personal portfolio of personal projects. There's lots of information and different projects that you can follow, but the key thing is it gives you that exposure to get hands-on. one of the things that I personally like doing and have encouraged my mentees to do is not just do the projects, but also take screenshots and write, a Word document or a PDF, or if they're feeling brave, do it on video. I know I did. Just even to be able to talk about it. So that becomes part of their portfolio, which they can start looking into when they start looking at different job opportunities. You've got GitHub, you've got lots of different ways to show the work that you've done and to show that even if you don't have that technical experience yet, that you do have the capabilities in order to do that work.
I agree with that. Not the video part, because I'm an introvert and I'm like, I don't need to see my face on video. But
Well, even if just
well, apart from
screenshot
that,
and put it on a
screenshot.
video slideshow, because that just lifts it up and reminds you in a year's time, yeah, oh, I did that. That was a AWS and GCP, personal project. If you're into like things like AWS, you have AWS.workshops where it has like guided some pieces and stuff like that. But I'm sure you know that having the AWS work stream inside Coding Like Females.
Yeah. If you're looking for like practical experience, I always say to people, if you have the time, volunteer for like a charity or a non-profit. They always need help. Always need help. And there's always work that can be done because they probably don't even realize that the work is needed. So you could identify, oh, can I help streamline some data? Can I do some analytics or something like that? And they will appreciate you so much because they always need help. So if there is like a non-profit organization or charity that you know of, that you, especially one that you care about as well, it's even better. It's a great way to get practical experience. You don't have to do it completely accurately. You don't have to be great at it. Because whatever you do, you're going to be grateful and thankful.
I could echo that with a charity. I did some work and I ended up doing digital transformations. Charities and not-profits are able to access a lot of things. So for example, you can have access to Canva for social media and all that bits and pieces. And then you've got the Google Suite as well.
Yes.
So you can do a migration from different ones to actually have domains and lots of different opportunities. And a lot of people will also help with referrals as well. If you've done something for them, then it's that way around.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of the time we forget, whatever stage of your career you're in, we forget that we've got valuable knowledge that people need to help them progress in their business, day-to-day life, whatever it is. So if you're looking for practical work experience and you have the time to volunteer, I always say non-profit or charity because they will be beyond grateful to have you there. And they'll help you in return. Referrals, point you out in different directions, be like, hey, have you spoken to blah, blah, blah? They've got an opening. You never know what that can come, and it's great to add to your portfolio. Woo!
It's the art of the possible. It's putting your hand up and saying, you know what, okay, I'll do it. From that aspect. One of the comments I can see, someone puts in, Forrest is right, but it's beautiful. From the talk earlier, one of the things that I actually do use is an app called Forrest, which is why I referenced it. But it's essentially, I'm not sure if you can see that because of the lighting, but it helps me kind of realize how half an hour here and there all builds up. So the concept is you plant a seed and you set a certain time. So I have mine for 25 minutes of focused forest time, and it plants a certain seed, and then you can see how over a year that is grown from that aspect. And it also tells me, not to do anything on my phone, because in order to use my phone again, it says, do you give up? And I don't want to give up. And the plant withers.
We have another question for you. When you're talking about video examples, what do you mean exactly?
Okay, so there's a couple different things actually. So with the video examples, You can probably find one on my LinkedIn that I did when I moved into cloud computing, but it's essentially I did a personal project which was GCP and AWS, and I put the screenshots in a video. So just had the screenshots and had like a flip book, like you see on LinkedIn or other methods, or you can put that easily inside like Insta or anything like that. And I personally didn't even talk in it. I didn't appear in it. I just wrote on text boxes what I did. I used Docker. I did this and I did that. And I just created that as part of that video. One thing that I also did, and this is, I guess, part of my going out and recording myself concept. I actually submitted, on my current role, I submitted a video CV in addition to my CV, which was very brave of me to do, but I thought I'd try something new from that aspect. So there's certain formats you can do. So you talk about your journey, but if anything, it helped me stand out. And if anything, for the role that I ended up getting, they decided to put me in for a higher level role. It was like having a mini first interview from that aspect. It was private and no one else could see it. Apart
You don't want
from
to share it
the
with us?
candidate. It's too embarrassing. I gesticulate a lot with my hand. But
So
you
do
know,
I. So what's the one like? I'm sat on my
yeah,
hands right now, so I don't be like this one you're
I'd
talking.
happy to come back and do like a set format, and then maybe in that one that's not on public YouTube share. But it's just
I'm
talking
gonna
about your
hold you up on that.
projects. Yeah, obviously it's difficult to go and do, but I wanted a specific role and I wanted to make myself stand out as a candidate in that. I know a lot of people who've career transitioned and have followed the same after I showed them my one. And
Love
they've
that.
gotten really great roles since then from there, because it just, takes you off the page and brings
I
you
love
into like a
that.
first stage interview.
So if anyone wants Czarina to walk through how she did that, you just let us know. Get in touch with Coding Black Females, and we'll try and arrange something. Hint, hint. It's not even a hint. It's just like you let us know when you're available.
Yeah, no, that'll be lovely. When I was mentoring at the Google IT cert, I used to record sessions, so like an intro to LinkedIn 101 with a couple tips and stuff like that. That's probably embedded somewhere inside Slack.
Probably you could teach me about LinkedIn. That platform confuses me. I'm just like, what is this? What is this? Thank you so much, Czarina. Got one more comment for you saying, "Girl, you're giving us gems tonight." So thank you so much. Can we get a big virtual thank you for Czarina, please? Thank you so much. Wendy, are you ready?
Hey, yes,
Are you
ready
ready?
to go.
Over to you. So our last speaker of tonight is Wendy, everyone.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. And it has been wonderful hearing the speakers. It's almost like we planned this, because what I'll be talking about today is around a few guiding principles that accelerated my career in data. But before I begin, just a little bit about myself. So my name is Wendy. I am currently a data and analytics manager at a fast-moving consumer goods company, which is global. Although I do have a career journey that is sort of squiggly, if you'd have me say that. But alongside that, I am also a mentor and a public speaker. These sort of came around randomly, just like my career transition. But I'm quite passionate about helping women to achieve their career goals, especially in STEM, and preferably within my industry, because we need more women and more diversity. And so Czarina sort of gave us a very nice analogy to books, almost like we planned it because mine's going to be around movies. So if you haven't watched the Avengers, I am sorry. There are going to be a few spoilers. But to begin with, the first sort of principle is around embracing change, especially as an opportunity for growth. And this is what I call a call to adventure. So, an example in one of the Avengers movies, Iron Man, is when Tony Stark gets captured and eventually builds the first Iron Man suit, right? And this call of adventure sometimes can be pressure from work, or you feel frustrated with where you are, or you see something that interests you. It's that unexpected feeling that starts your unexpected journey. So for me, it was my career transition from legal into a data role where I've been fortunate to work in many different capacities. So my career started out as a paralegal, where I was working within disputes and litigation, and my call to adventure was around, okay, we're dealing with a lot of data here, but no one really knows, the volumes coming in. What are the trends? And so with that, I began experimenting on my own. And I will say, I just started with the very basics, which is collecting data. And if you're in data, that's one of the least sort of enjoyable parts of it. But then sort of over the years, I, you know, took that view of finding opportunities, especially where there might be problems or where people might need answers to their questions, or where they might want to make decisions with their data. And so currently, I'm not sure where I go from here as the data and analytics manager, but I am looking forward to the next movie of that. Now, the second sort of principle is around courage over confidence. Sometimes a lot of us feel like we don't want to apply for jobs, or we don't want to go after that promotion, and we feel like it's because of confidence. But I say it's around courage. So with this, I say face the unknown, and just think of when Captain America wakes up from his deep slumber and everything's changed 70 years on. Sometimes it can feel like, if you've just gotten a promotion, or you've just got a new job, or you want to get a new job, it seems like it's just too much to take on. But I say just embrace the challenge, right? And again, look at the unknown as opportunities for you to grow. And I still face this. I transitioned from law into fast moving consumer goods. I'm still getting used to the lingo, the language, how the data is structured, but I am learning more. And each day I am better than I was the day previous to that. Now, the next principle I want to speak about is around people. So gather your allies, build a strong support network. And sometimes we are in environments that aren't conducive to our growth. Sometimes we've not got the right friends, or sometimes the people who are close to us try to discourage us. But now, within this age of technology and the internet, we've got access to virtual communities. And so I put a picture of Nick Fury here because he gathers the Avengers, right? He gathers the strongest people, each with their different strengths. And so I want to stress the principle around building a strong network, because there's this saying that if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And that's what I experienced in my career journey. I had people that were allies, people who indirectly were my mentors, but to me, they were my mentors. To me, they had no idea who I was sometimes. But it's all about connecting with the people who will provide you with that knowledge, that support, that opportunity. It might even be people who look up to you sometimes. And I just want to share a picture of an event I went to, which was the Women in Data flagship event. And you can see me in the bottom right corner there, very enthusiastic to be there. And it's just a community of women, about 3,000 women in the room. And that was so encouraging. And I am based in Newcastle, so I had to take a 5 a.m. train down to London to make that event. I'm so glad that I did. Sometimes it's a question of maybe traveling outside of where you are, connecting with someone on LinkedIn. And that's what I've been doing this year, especially, right? With each new connection, I send out a link to a Calendly. We have virtual coffee, and I get to learn about different people and what they're doing. And that also inspires me in my journey. The next principle is around sharpening skills. And in the background, you may or may not know Dr. Strange. Though he's quite studious, he also did travel out to seek a teacher, right, where he was learning these mystic arts. And I was just like, learning is continuous, and it's so key to our journey. When I first started out, I knew Excel, and that was the building block for me to learn Power BI. And that sort of opened me to the world of data visualization. And then with data visualization, I thought, okay, so who's looking at these visualizations? What kind of decisions are they making? And that led me not away from the technical side of things, but that made me also consider, okay, what are the people side of things when it comes to, building my career, but also providing my value to my organization. And when it comes to sharpening skills, it's so important to understand that you're not going to learn everything in one go, right? I have been 5 years into my journey so far. I've managed to learn a great deal of things. There's still a lot that I don't know, especially in this digital age of AI. But make sure that you're curious about things. It might be just a conversation that you have with someone, or great initiatives like Coding Black Females, where you can join their courses. And do not despise the way in which you learn your skills. It might be online, it might be a book that you read. And for me, it started with podcasts, surprisingly. Now, the next is around collaboration and perseverance. So, in the Battle of New York, in the Avengers, we see the Avengers come together, and they showcase teamwork as well as individual contributions towards a common goal, which was ensuring that the city was safe and fighting the bad guys. So think about who's in your network, who do you know, who could you work with to ensure that you're providing value, but you're also accelerating in your career. And sometimes it might be in the strangest of places, the person you least expect to collaborate with, that will make things happen for you. And the final sort of principle I want to speak on is one that I am currently experiencing. Now, I don't like to speak about things that I haven't experienced. So I'm very pleased to be speaking on this, which is the principle that it's better to give than it is to receive. And in your career, think of, how can you share your knowledge? And that brings an advantage in that you're seen as someone who's knowledgeable in your field, even if it's just one thing that you do know of. And also in terms of giving back, think about how you can use your skills, your experience to make a difference. So it might be through perhaps attending conferences where you present your ideas. It might be as little as sharing on LinkedIn. That goes a very long way. And for me, my career didn't really take off until I started mentoring. And in sharing my story, I began to gain insights from my mentees, because there are certain things that I thought were, okay, assumed knowledge, everyone should know this. But to my mentee, they gained insight from that. And I also gain insights whenever I share my stories as well. So I might be watching this talk back because I'm definitely going to be learning something else. So what I see as the difference between people who are just starting out and people who are in much more senior roles is around this principle. So it's about developing people, but through developing people, you do also enhance your own understanding and skills, and you are also seen as a thought leader. And so I want to leave you with this message. Just like Czarina said about your book and, being an author, you too can direct your own hero story. I'm not sure where I'm going, but I'm excited to see where that goes. I'm excited to connect with the people that will help me get there. I'm excited to contribute and provide value to people who need it there. I'm excited for what that call of adventure would be, whether it's an opportunity to say yes, whether it's something I feel frustrated about that I can perhaps build a solution around or help someone answer a question about. You too can do it. My journey from data to law was unexpected, but it's taught me so much. And if there's one thing that I want you to take away, it's that it's never too late to start something new or chase what truly excites you. And so I will leave you with a few takeaways. Firstly, embrace change as an opportunity for growth. Sometimes change can be painful, sometimes it can be uncharted waters, and you might not have a blueprint to that. But understand that a year from now, you are going to be glad that you pursue that opportunity. Secondly, build a network of allies, people who will support you, people who also will correct you when you're veering off course. That's very important. Commit to continuous learning and build your resilience. Each time you build your resilience, you're building your confidence because you've been that place before. You know what worked and what did not, right? And you only build momentum from a series of small wins. So do keep trying. Apply your knowledge to solve real world problems. So you might be in a position where you think, okay, I do not have any sort of experience in technology, but have a look around your life. What sort of problems do people around you have? It might be you've got a local library not too far from you, or a charity, like Czarina said when she was presenting. Find ways in which to solve those real world problems and communicate them. And lastly, as you go on your journey, remember to give back by mentoring and supporting others, because that's how we all grow. And it's important, especially in this age when we have issues around diversity and inclusion. It's important for people to see representation, especially within the technology field. And so that brings me to the end of the talk. I would love to get some feedback from you to see if this was helpful. And you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I will leave a link in the chat. But yes, thank you.
And we get a big virtual round of applause for Wendy. Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed that talk, and I'm so glad you didn't spoil any movies for me. I was a bit concerned at one moment. I was like, oh. So we have a question for you, but one question and one comment. I'll start from the top. Do you have any podcast recommendations that was very valuable to you?
100%. I would say Super Data Science, because they have people from many different industries and many different roles presenting. I think there was an episode where I listened to a data scientist who was studying full-time and working full-time as well. And I thought, yeah, right, that's so difficult. And 2 years later, I ended up doing the same thing, but studying part-time and working full-time. So yes, I recommend super data science if you want to get into the data arena, or even if you're not in the data arena, it's good to know what the data scientists are up to because it's very relevant within tech.
And we have a question, which I think any speaker could probably chime it into and add to it. Which awarding body / certification is most accepted or recognized by employers? There's so many advertised online nowadays. What do employers want? Suppose you're transitioning from a different sector, but maybe not necessarily have a tech background. Can certification alone get you a foot in the door aside from networking without experience? I'd actually like to hear from every speaker on this, because I've got my opinion, but I'll let you all go first.
Okay, I'll take that one. So I always get this question from my mentees, and I always tell them, when you're applying for jobs, sometimes you don't go for that ideal job that you want, because within data, you've got that domain understanding, you've got that technology skills, and then you've got the business skills. So sometimes it's a question of what industry do you want to work in? How well do you know it? Because it's all about solving problems using these different technology skills. And for me, I experimented on the side, it worked, and I communicated. But if you're looking to come in, it's all about, do you have the skills? And for me personally, I would be concerned about, okay, can you prove that you've provided value? So can you provide any recommendations? Again, should be easy to get from, volunteer positions and things like that. But I will say sometimes certifications, I've got AI, online certifications, but I barely work with AI nowadays. I'm more into, interacting with stakeholders. But I think it depends on what you want to do.
Czarina or Sandra, I'd love to hear your opinions on that as well.
Yeah, so when it comes to certifications, it really it varies, being open and honest. I've met a lot of people who have got a wealth, badges upon badges of certifications, but when you speak to them, they're not able to articulate what they've learned on that journey. So for me, it's about the what you're able to talk about. Are you able to do the different technical concepts? And that certification should be the cherry on top of the ice cream that you're building, starting at the cone and making it the cornetto style with the chocolate at the bottom and the different layers. And that cert should be the cherry on top. I appreciate that certification aspect is useful because it has that external body that confirms and ratifies that people operate at that level, but it's got to be both. You've got to be able to talk about it as well as show that certificate, essentially.
I suppose in answering that question, this is not a join the dots. The reality is it's not really about certification. It's about, if you've got skill sets in what you do have at the moment, it's how you think you can apply those skill sets to where you want to be, right? So you're trying to make a move from one industry to another or one role to another. There are always going to be things that you've learned in the role that you're currently doing that you can apply in the role you're trying to go to. So always kind of look at your strengths. And as we've all said, right, it's really the cherry on top. The certification really is saying, actually, I have all these lateral skills, but the reason why I've gone off and done this certification is because I really want to do this, right? And I've applied myself here, here, and here in order to be able to achieve it. But you're going to have to take your existing experience and then look at how you apply that into the role you're trying to get to. Certification and it is not going to be enough. And when we talk about networking, that's really about me maybe trying to understand the place you're trying to get to. So when we were talking about, women in data, right? If you really love it, you're going to spend time on it. You are going to network. You're going to be in a room of people that you then speak to, and then you get to understand different industries and how people are working in those industries. And if any of that is interesting to you, it's not going to be, it's not going to be, if I tick this and I do this and I do this, it'll get me where I want to be. It's going to be about you thinking about where you are now and how you apply that to where you want to be.
Another thing I'd just like to add is don't ever underestimate the power of groups like this, essentially. That referral network, that was part of my journey and how I got to the specific role I'm in. When people work for companies, they have referral schemes and they're going to want to recommend people who they know from that, because it's your name when you look at referring. So, if you think about the cohorts that you're in, if one person gets a job, if you know each other, it's developing that and learning from each other. Another thing which is interesting to point out, especially where we're, in a group and, and we've got lots of women, according to a study in LinkedIn, and I don't have it in front of me, so just me remembering on top, from the top of my head, but essentially when you're looking at jobs and applying for jobs, women traditionally feel that they need to hit every single criteria that's inside that
I
job
know exactly
description.
what you're talking about. I know the study you're
Yeah.
talking about.
And then the study was that their counterparts, 60%, and they would look at applying. I know some, great organizations like the one that I work for use gender neutralizers and starting to, really think about how they're positioning those roles to be more inclusive, just even in terms of language, and how they describe the roles to get down to the really core concepts. But it's aligning all the great skill sets, like Sandra said, that you've got and showcasing that. But you've got to be in it to win it, like the lottery. If you're not applying, especially for senior roles as you progress as well, that's one of the things that I find working in this industry. A lot of women who are amazing, we have conversations like, well, how, what's next in your career? Like, oh no, I can't. And you're like, just go for it, essentially.
It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the whole referral thing, it's, I think I found, especially corporate, the higher up the ladder you go, that the less women are there, right? And so I think that's when you kind of look back at the referral process, it's men referring men, right? And it's kind of trying to break that cycle to allow other people who may have maybe not the same experience, because you need to have had those roles in order to have that experience, right? But people who are able to step up and into those spaces where the organization may give you the opportunity to do that, to actually move forward with the not just the diversity part of it, but actually more women in senior positions, right? So it's not just technology, it's more women in senior positions, because the reality is the mantra always is, well, you've never done this role before, but I can't do the role if I've never been given the opportunity to do the role. And if you always recommend people who think like you, then you're always going to have men in those roles, right?
Yeah.
And so we need to break that cycle, and to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to present themselves. So to me, that's the greatest challenge, because there just aren't enough of us in those positions to be able to do, oh, I refer this one, or I refer this is a person that I've worked with, I can refer them, because there just aren't enough of us yet. There's not that groundswell yet, but we're definitely getting there. But we definitely still need to make sure that the door is left open so that we can contribute.
I think that's why it's great that there's now so many communities available that can help you get that foot in the door to get you started. But it's something that I've said to people in the past when I used to teach on our courses, is always rely on those soft skills that you have. Some people see them as weaknesses, but as you progress more and more in your tech career, actually you become more reliant on your soft skills rather than the skills that I'm here teaching you today. Like, you can go on YouTube and probably learn what I'm teaching you, and they're hard skills that will get you your foot in the door. But like communication skills are very underestimated in tech, which always confuses me. So soft skills that people go on courses to learn, a lot of us innately have them. So as you progress more and more in your career, like, lean on those soft skills that you have, because they will get you far, and you'll be surprised.
That is true. Being a good communicator is really
Oh,
important. Or being able to
insanely important.
being able to translate.
The translation of this technical thing into human mother language, whatever
Yes.
language that may be, being able to
Yes.
translate that, so important. So important. So before I let you all go, I would love to get another final round of applause to all of our amazing speakers. I'm absolutely inspired by all of you, and I thank you all for giving up your time to be with us today. Thank you so very much. If you haven't put your LinkedIn or whatever socials you choose to connect on in the chat, and you want to connect with one another, please connect with everyone. We are a community. We're here to uplift one another, not just one Wednesday every 2 months, but as much as we need it. And if you want to go on a course, get mentoring, look for a job, need a virtual hug, Coding Black Females is here for you. So, yeah, you're right. I haven't put mine in the chat. I will put my contact details in the chat as well. I'll do that in a sec before I forget. But thank you all so much. I'm very inspired and very grateful that you spent your time with us tonight. Thank you so much.
Good night, everyone.
Thank
Have
you.
a
Have a good evening,
evening.
everyone.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Or day, depending where you are in the world.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.